In this example, we have ourselves a radical equation, and it looks like it's the square root of the opposite of x, and that equals x to the sixth. So looking at this, you might be able to get some really good ideas just by a visual inspection and using properties of square roots and properties of exponents. And so one of these, in fact, is going to be the square root of, well, we can't have the square root of a negative number. So in order for the opposite of x to be positive, well, x is going to have to be negative. And that seems okay, because if we have a negative value that we raise to the power of 6, well, 6 is an even exponent, so we know that'll be positive. Okay, or maybe 0. Well, the square root of 0 is 0 to the 6th. Okay, so we've got some good ideas here just by a visual inspection. So let's go ahead and solve this algebraically. And so to get rid of the square root, let's go ahead and raise each side of this equation to the power of 2. So what will happen is the 2 and the square root will cancel, so we'll have negative x equals, and it looks like the power of a power here, x to the 12th. All right, so adding x to both sides of this equation will give us 0 equals x to the 12th plus x. Alrighty, well, there's a greatest common factor here, so let's pull that x out, and we'll have x to the 11th plus 1. And the 0 property of multiplication tells us when we have factors here and we're multiplying them together and we get 0, well, it's because one of them has to be 0. So let's account for both of them. So we'll say x equals 0 and x to the 11th plus 1 equals 0. Well, we have one of our solutions here, and we kind of knew that was going to work already. So for this one, let's subtract 1 from both sides. So we have x to the 11th equals negative 1. And what we can do then to both sides is take the 11th root. And so the root here and the 11 will cancel, so x equals, well, the 11th root of negative 1, well, 11 is odd, so that's nice, so x will be negative 1. So we have two possible values, 0 and negative 1. So let's go ahead and plug those back into our original equation and see if they work. So we had the square root of the opposite of x equals x to the 6th. So 0, the opposite of 0 is 0, square root of 0 is 0, and 0 to the 6th is 0. Yeah, so the 0 does in fact work. So let's plug in a negative 1. So we have the square root of the opposite of negative 1 equals negative 1 to the 6th. Well, the opposite and the negative cancel to make just a positive 1. Square root of 1 is 1, and negative 1 to the 6th is 1. Yeah, that works as well. So we know that our two solutions then for this equation, x equals 0 and negative 1.